Hey everyone, no clue. There's gonna be no racing mower update this week, but yeah, because things got a little more expensive than I thought they were going to. So I wasn't able to order the parts I needed for it, and instead I'm gonna show you how to replace a gasket for your crankcase, because that's what blew out on this engine. I already took the liberty of dismantling everything and cleaning it all up. And right now I'm recording a little later than I usually do because my parents are leaving for Texas tomorrow and they decided they need an oil change done on their van tonight. So it's about 9:30, and anybody who's worked on Mercury Monterey's or the Ford Freestars, Windstars, whatever they are, they'll know these things suck to do when they're hot, because they decided to put the oil filter next to the catalytic converter, so I gotta wait for this thing to cool off. So I figure it's a good time to record this. So right now, like I said, I took the liberty of cleaning everything up, because that's about a half hour of work that I saved off camera. All I did was taking my favorite tool here, which is this little die grinder here. This one happens to be 90 degrees with a nylon wheel on the end of it. And what you do is first you take your little razor blade scraper here and you scrape all your gasket off. Then you take one of these nylon wheels and you just go all along the edges on here, cleaning everything up, getting it nice and smooth, making it look brand new. I did the same thing here, but I had paper towels stuffed in the case here to keep all that crap out of the engine. Because the cleaner your engine is, the longer it's going to last. And, by the way, when I got my package today from UPS, anybody, I mean, really? Ace Ventura could have done a better job delivering this. I mean, come on. There's no need to freaking crush a package like that. So, I already pulled everything out. I already took most of the stuff out and checked to make sure it's okay. I mean, you can't really harm these gaskets too much, so I'm not worried about that. There was this big paper gasket here that I was worried about that seals along the crankcase, because I know this gasket's pretty big and this box was crushed all to hell, so. Yep, nobody's got respect for other people's properties anymore. So, first things first, I'm going to get the parts out. I went to Farm and Fleet and I picked up a dipstick seal tube because I thought that's what was leaking on it. So I already replaced it and I ordered another one because they're always handy to have around. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this all apart, or not take it all apart, but open up all my stuff and get ready to put this thing back together, and I'll take you guys through the steps. Alright, since I was going through the headache of dissecting this motor to change this gasket out, I figured it was in my best interest to actually buy a new one of these gaskets, which I've already started to press in. And that actually, this ring doesn't look too good. I have to check the old one to make sure, but what you want to do is, since, like I said, I'm going through the headache of dismantling this motor, so I'm going to change this gasket out while it's apart, because if this gasket were to fail, or the seal here were to fail, I'd have to actually, would I? I don't think I'd have to, but you'd have to pull the motor back off, which is not a lot of work, but it's more work than I want to do for some stupid O-ring that decides to blow out on me. So what I did is I used a seal puller, took this old seal off, and the seal looks actually pretty much the same, but, well, it should be the same. It's both Briggs and Stratton parts. So what you want to do is you want to get this O-ring here flush with this casting, and there's several ways to do that. You could either be really skilled and hit it down with a hammer, or if you don't trust yourself, get a piece of wood that has a flat edge, piece of PVC, or you could actually have an actual seal installer for it that's the right size. Just about anything, you just want to make sure it's flat with this. And I recommend you either take some, let's see if we got any on the shelves over here. I'm not going to really waste my time moving the camera because I don't think we do. But what I did is I took something called trans assembly goo. Vaseline works wonders as well. You take Vaseline, I'll show what this holds the gasket. You want to pack it in between the spring here, because you can see there's a little spring right there. Oh, hope it was on camera. But you can see the spring here. I'll pull it out. What the spring likes to do here is when you install it with nothing in there, it sometimes likes to fall out, and then it's a headache when the thing's leaking because that spring fell out. So you want to take something called trans assembly goo or Vaseline. That'll dissolve in the oil and it won't harm anything. I believe there's also engine assembly stuff like that, but I'm not 100% sure. But I know the trans assembly goo is safe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pound this thing the rest of the way in, make sure it's all nice and flush, and I'll be back. Alright guys, so I'm back in the garage here a couple of days later after working on this. And this thing's been sitting for about 72 hours to make sure it's 110% cured. And I ended up having to get rid of a good amount of my footage because the audio quality for some reason was just really staticky. So I ran through, I cleaned the microphone on here and everything, and hopefully it's better. But I'm going to try to save as much of the footage as I can, so we'll see. So what's left to really do on this thing is bolt it back on and test it. And I think the main footage I'm going to lose is the actual installation of this, where I bolted it down. And what I did is I basically go across and you do a star pattern on it, or as much of a star pattern as you can for something like this, because it's got some weird odds and ends bolts like there and there. They're kind of like just out there. So unfortunately this bolt here was stripped out, so I took a helicoil and put it in there. And here's what a helicoil looks like. What it is, you can buy these sets at, I know at Napa for sure. And all you do is oversize the hole, put bigger threads in it, and run that little thread thing in there, and it'll make it so you could reuse your bolts. So I did that. Hopefully that'll hold up, but only thing left to do is bolt her back on and test it. Alright, the preliminary report says that she's seaworthy. So, you can hear the exhaust ticking a little bit, or I can anyways, and down in here, dry as a bone. So, and I just ran this engine for about an hour and a half at full throttle. So, I made sure it was good and hot, and doesn't look like any of the gasket material has failed yet. So, call this done as far as engine work's concerned. And I figured while I had the engine off, I'd change the mower deck belt on it, because the deck belt liked to fall off, so it was stretched out too far, way past where this adjuster here will eat up the slack. So unfortunately, I had to buy a new belt. But turns out I bought my belt 1 inch too short, so it wants to stay engaged all the time, so now I got to go back and get get a longer belt, which isn't too bad. I think it was the same price for that, but still, tired of having to deal with the problems on this. And the engine work's all done. The engine's running good and strong now, thank God. Now I still have to fix this tire that likes to go flat. This tire likes to go flat, but this tire will take a week to go flat. And this tire's already flat. So I need to pick up 2 tubes for this thing, and maybe a third one, depending on how bad the price is on them. I think they're only $10. So if they're only $10, I'll pick up a third tube, throw it in the front tire, and not worry about the front end anymore. Actually, what I think I'm going to do after I cut here is I'm going to spray these tubes, or spray the tires down with water, find out where they're leaking. If they're leaking around the bead or around the valve stem, I'll just take them into work tomorrow and I'll fix it then. So yeah, try to save a couple bucks. I'm guaranteeing you this thing's going to need a tube because it's flat. I just filled this up before I mounted the motor on it. Ugh. But I digress. Starting to ramble here. And just to get off topic one more time, here's the exhaust for the racing mower. I have reached a conclusion on, or I've counted up all the votes, not only on YouTube comments, but the people I've shown the photo to personally. And you'll see what the exhaust is going to look like in the next mower update, but things got expensive this week, especially with this hunk of junk right there. So, unfortunately, no progress will be made on this for quite some time. And as far as getting a test drive in, I'm only waiting on motor parts. So, fingers crossed that nothing gets expensive this week and I'll have enough cash to throw at this thing for all the engine parts I need at once. And if not, I'll buy just the internals. I'll run with the stock flywheel, although I'm not happy about it, but it's only for a test drive. And I might drive the thing down the street a little bit, but if I do drive it, it's not going full bore, I'll tell you that right now. Those flywheels scare the crap out of me. I've seen way too many explosions. But yeah, my friend was out of town for the week, so I decided to weld it up myself. They're not as pretty as his would have been, so I got to grind them down a little bit and clean them up some. But because if I would have had him welded, I would have just been able to bolt the thing right to the motor and call it good. But I made sure my welds were airtight by taking 2 pieces of scrap, and I welded this scrap plate to the tube, and I filled it with water. You can see the water in there, and the water hasn't leaked out around here. So my welds are airtight, they're just ugly. So I'll have to clean that up and then put the exhaust tips on. Oh well, it happens. So before I start talking about something else completely unrelated, I'm going to end the video off here. Maybe you guys learned something from this. Maybe you guys were yelling at the screen the entire time. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.